Hello, hello, this is Father Adam coming to you in English, live from Las Vegas. I just spent a couple of months with my wonderful and beloved grandmother, who is now back in Poland. I will never forget when my grandfather was dying of colon cancer, and there's nothing that could have been done medically to alleviate his pain. They could not give him any more morphine in the hospital. My aunts, his daughters, would come in and try to comfort him, caressing him, grabbing him by his arms. Nothing would dull the pain, except when my grandmother came in, grabbed him by his hand, caressed him. He could not open his eyes. He couldn't see her, but he felt her. And she would whisper into his ears, Stasiu, that's his name. Kocham cię. I love you. I'm here, she said. Jestem tutaj. I'm here. He calmed down. The pain went away. Love is the best medicine. It's her unconditional love for him. She was his best advocate for 44 years of marriage. She advocated for him. My grandfather, who was a member of the Communist Party in Poland, he wanted a tractor and other perks that came from being a part of the Communist Party, so he signed away his Catholic faith. He would not go to church. He would ridicule my grandmother for praying, made fun of her for going to church. She would never make fun of him back or ever talk back to him. She prayed for him and she hoped. You see, we make a big mistake in our life. We think that there's something we're going to say to our family members or friends to change them. It's not you or I that change people. It's God who changes people. Talk less to your children, your loved ones, your spouse about God, and talk more to God about them. That's what my grandmother did with my grandfather. She prayed for him. And at the end of his life, the fruits of her prayer, he gave his life to God. In 1 week, on a Tuesday, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. And the following Sunday, I see him in the kitchen all dressed up. And I said to him, why are you all dressed up? And he says, well, I'm going to church with you today. Oh. At that, my grandmother came into the kitchen, grabbed me, pulled me out of the kitchen and said, shh, let's just go along with it. And from that Sunday on, my grandfather went to church every week until he gave his life back to God. Because throughout his life, as throughout your life, It was difficult for him to believe in God, as it is difficult for you 100% of the time to believe in God. But 100% of the time, God believes in you. And God is for you. And God is advocating for you. And God is calling you to be an advocate for your children, for your spouse, for your loved ones, as my grandmother was my grandfather's best advocate. Do you know, when he was dying, I remember him praying, "Oh God of my wife, help me. God of my wife, help me," he would pray, because the only God he knew was her. And it was the non-judgmental God. The God who, when my grandfather, who was a drunk, an alcoholic, he would come in all vomited and all drunk, and he would come into the house and he would start making a fuss, and as drunks do, and he was throwing a fit. And my grandmother would never say, "Come here," to me and my brother. She would never say, "Come here, look at him," as so many women do with their drunk husbands. She would never say, "Come here and look at him." She would send us upstairs to sleep, and she would say, "Your grandfather is sick. We have to help him." What do a lot of spouses do with their wife or with their husband? They call their children over and they want to make themselves look better, and they want to point out the other's faults. That was not my grandmother. That's why at the end of his life, he prayed, "Oh God of my wife, help me." That's unconditional love. It's the love that sacrifices. I've been reflecting a lot about that, my grandmother's example. And I'm calling each of you to that. I celebrated a couple of weddings on Saturday, and I even had 2 weddings yesterday, Monday. And I've been reflecting on marriage and married life and the family, and the need for each of us to be each other's advocates. Not to be judgmental people, pointing out with our fingers. You see, a lot of people who have faith, they have their faith in their finger. They want to point. Stop doing that. Just pray and hope. Stop having your faith in your finger. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. It doesn't bring anybody to God. Love brings people to the faith that you want your loved ones to have, because you want your loved ones to have hope in their life. Something that I want each and every one of you to experience in your life as well. So I wanted to share that with you, because that is a powerful example of my grandmother in my life. So I pray for that grace in your own life and in your married life, that you may be each other's best advocates. May God bless you. I wanted to have this reflection with all of you today in English. I'm going to try to do more reflections in English. And if you want jokes in English, I know lots of jokes in English too. I don't just know them in Spanish. And I know jokes in Polish too. So, how is everybody today? How are you doing? You want more videos in English? Comment and share them. And I'll try to do more and more reflections in English for each and every one of you. May God bless you. Hello, hello. This is Father Adam, live from Las Vegas.